Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, and today I'm hanging out with Alex. How do you pronounce your last name?
Galat.
Galat. Uh, Captain Grothenard, Roll Up and Die podcast, Critical Hits Publishing, man of many talents.
So some would say unfocused, but yeah, I like that better.
Yeah. And just before we got started here, we're actually talking about sausage, more specifically moose sausage.
Yeah, we're going to be having moose sausage soon, but I don't recommend collecting moose sausage this way. A moose hit my wife's car about a week ago or so, a week and a half ago, and fortunately, it just kind of rolled over the hood and didn't total the car or kill my wife. So that was a good thing. But in most cases, moose strikes are fatal, so we lucked out there. But we are getting some sausage from the deal, so that's one of the fun little hazards of living up in northern Maine, I guess.
Yeah, you most definitely have to turn that sucker into sausage now because you do not want moose zombies running around. It would be horrendous.
Cool, but horrendous, yeah.
No, cool in your fantasy role-playing game, not so much in real life.
Zombie moose, I really like that now. Thank you.
Well, zombie animals are a lot of fun. Then of course, then you have to figure out who's the necro druid that's running around animating all the animals.
That's right. What's their motivation? Play a moose.
When you told me that, it reminded me of a bumper sticker I had seen, and it's like "break for moose." It was something like "break for moose, it'll save your life," or "don't break for moose, it might it'll feed your family."
Right. Or well, it'll feed your family in your absence, because again, like, chances are you're not going to survive a moose hit. If you hit one of those things head on, like I was telling you before we started, these things are just really tall, and so when you hit those things, they just kind of like fall directly through the windshield, and you're talking 1,000, 2,000 pounds just coming right on top of you. You're not going to make it.
That's a lot of animal coming your way.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember hearing a story. One of our family friends, they had hit a deer, and they scooped it up and throw it in the back, thinking the same thing. They were going to butcher it, later. And the next thing they hear, they start hearing it snort in the back.
Yeah, well, that is something important to worry about with roadkill, for sure.
Yeah, that it's actually killed. Well, I guess a lot of people don't realize about deer. Deer are very dangerous. It's a big animal.
Yeah.
And I used to take martial arts eons ago, and I studied Ed Parker's Kempo. And one of the principles he came up with was called checking. And the way he came to that was from a hunting accident. He was hunting with his buddy, and they thought they got a deer, and he went over to it and looked down. Well, it kicked out and gutted him and ended up killing him.
Oh yeah. A lot of animal kicks, especially four-legged ones. Those are brutal. There are people who've gotten killed by horse or mule kicks, things like that. So yeah, definitely, I could see that happening.
Yeah, well, and I guess the other thing, people don't realize, like, they're sharp. The hooves can be sharp.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But so enough about wilderness and hunting, I guess, the non-fantasy variety. The reason why I figured I'd hit you up, one, I've been aware of you for a long time. Early on, we used to share out a lot of YouTubers on our Facebook page just to kind of get the word out. And the thing that I found really striking and interesting about what you do is not only are you a YouTuber and into gaming, but you also live in a yurt.
Yeah, and it's funny because had I not lived in the yurt, I might not be doing a lot of this online stuff, because I really got into the online gaming and online and gaming community because I'm so isolated up here. There's really not much of a gaming community in northern Maine, and so this was my only avenue to access other geeks and nerds and gamers. So it might not happen if I hadn't lived in the yurt.
Well, it definitely has opened up the world, as far as gaming with the internet. Yeah. Like you said, there's plenty of people that the only place they get their fixes online now, not so much in person. So I take it you live a little bit out of the way.
A little bit. I mean, we're about 20 minutes from Caribou, which is the next biggest place up here, and there are grocery stores and things like that. We don't have to, hunt all our own food at this point, but we do we do pump our own water outside still. We don't have running water, things like that. But we use a composting toilet, but apart from that, obviously we have internet, electricity, that kind of thing.
Clearly, that'd be really interesting for you to be online with me right now. Without that, that'd be some high power arcana there.
Yeah, that's a new level of sorcery, right?
So, when did you guys start up with Roll Up and Die? I remember initially watching and checking it out.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. It's been a couple of years now almost, and I think the idea came up when I think we did a panel for Brigade Con, which is the RPG Brigade online convention, and we were doing this kind of discussion about gaming, and I think it was right after that Michael Barker came up with the idea for it and was looking for people interested, and we were just a couple of the first people to say something. And so I came up with the name Roll Up and Die. They loved it, so we just went with it.
So your classic right place, right time.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, it's really a lot of fun. It really is what it boils down to, though. We kind of knew it would be, and then as soon as we started just getting together once a week to talk about gaming and discuss these things, we just really enjoy it, which is really the big reason we keep doing it.
Well, no, I definitely get that. You guys are up to like 80 episodes now.
Yeah, well, 70. I think we just recorded 70, 75, 76.
There's some mystery ones in there. You're.
Oh well, yeah. Well, yeah. There are a couple specials, and there was a couple where we did some role playing, but yeah, official podcast there are like 70, 75 or something like that.
And how often are you guys putting out content over there?
Well, we're still trying to do once a week. We had a bit of a hiatus. Michael Barker and Matt Click, they're both involved with Absolute Tabletop, and so they've been kind of busy with their new kick. They did a very successful Kickstarter recently, so they've been kind of busy, and so we took a little bit of a hiatus there, but we're starting to get back into it now. We've recorded, I think we're like 2 episodes ahead at this point. And we try to keep it that way so that we can have time to edit and then put it out and then get the next ones going. We're getting back into the swing of it, but yeah, we try to go once a week at least.
Yeah, we had those guys on. Well, we've had them on a couple times now, but we had them on for the Harbinger playtest. We had them on for the Kickstarter.
Yep.
Yeah, Matt and Barker are great guys.
Oh yeah, for sure. And they're never not fun to talk to. I'm never worried that when we get on, it's gonna be like, what are we gonna bore me with today?
What do you got? How do you guys come up with topics?
Very informally, and often last minute. Yeah, really. Sometimes it'll be, say we're recording on a Thursday. Well, one of us will post a message. Hey, what are we talking about tonight? I don't know. What do you want to talk about? And then we'll just start throwing out ideas. Oh, we've already talked about that. And that's the part that's getting more difficult as we get to episode, in the 70s, because, we have to now think, man, have we recorded anything about that? Have we done that one yet? Are we going to reach a point where we're starting to go over old territory? But we've been pretty good about, keeping it fresh.
Having shot over 2,000 videos now, I can totally sympathize.
Yeah, I know it, and that's also my kind of concern with going back to making regular YouTube videos. Because I do want to get back into that for people who have who miss my produced content. I'm kind of concerned going back. What am I going to talk about? It's like there are all these other great channels. People talking about, how to start off gaming, GM tips and, all these things that people are doing. It's like, how can I now add to that, without just going over the same kind of stuff? How can I look at it in a different way, maybe?
Well, I feel like when it comes to that, like people get hung up on that. And it's not really relevant, because what happens is as you're building an audience and you have people that connect with you, they want to hear your point of view, they want to hear your take on things, and they may not, like, they may come to Nerdarchy and may not care for our style or our point of view or how we do things.
Yeah.
But they love coming to your channel and listening to your stuff. And it's, you know, everyone's gonna have their preferences, and everyone is going to connect with different people different ways.
Yeah. I suppose that's true. And so much of it comes down to style, you know, because you have 10 different gamers and they're all going to play 10 different ways. So, you know, this is, you know, if I'm making content, say this is my style, this is how I like to do it. If you like to too, then listen to me.
Yeah, I think the main thing is, like, there isn't going to be any other Alexes out there unless you have something they can know about. So that is always going to be original and fresh.
I hope so. But yeah, so I want to start that up soon. And like I was saying before, the reason I stopped was primarily because I have older kids now, and it's a little harder to get those blocks of time to film even a 15-minute piece, because it's not always just 15 minutes. It's usually all kinds of other stuff going on, and writing about it and that kind of thing. And so I'm trying to think of ways I can include them in the process, you know, so put together a show that involves them in it, because you know, maybe taking a kid's view of gaming would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a great idea. Yeah, especially if they enjoy doing it, and you enjoy doing it with them, why not?
Yep.
Kids, you know, kids are going to be great entertainment anyway, because you just never know what they're going to say or do.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So you said you're currently gaming with your kids.
Yeah, we have a home game where with my 2 kids and my wife. We play that once a week. It's a little bit different, obviously, than most of my games. A lot of my players would call my games kind of dark, on the dark side. You know, even regular fantasy tends to lean into the horror genre a bit more than most. But so I definitely have to play it differently at home, which is kind of fun and interesting. But
you gotta wait until they at least hit their tweens before you start to disturbing them too deeply.
Yeah. That's no cannibalism, no you know, leave those out.
Well, it's funny with my family, it's actually my youngest that's the most into horror. And my son doesn't like it. He doesn't like to jump, be frightened or scared, and neither does my wife.
Jump scares, yeah. No, they're okay with that. We've watched some pretty intense movies with them, and they're fine with it. But my daughter just doesn't like time travel. It kind of freaks her out that they're changing things, you know. So we recently watched Back to the Future trilogy, and I mean, she sat through horror movies and you know, light horror movies and action adventure movies, and she wasn't nearly as tense as during those 3 movies. So
that is kind of funny. That's an odd, like, hang up for a young person to have, like, time travel.
Don't mess with time.
Like, not like something happening to their family or being kidnapped or anything like that, but someone mucking with time.
Yeah. But like I said, my son likes zombies, so usually no problem with that. Yeah, they're both pretty okay with horror, at least mild horror, you know.
Cool. So how long have you been running the family game?
Oh, that's been about 6 months, maybe, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. My wife's schedule's changed, so we may be changing that up a bit. But yeah, it's we try to do once a week, and it probably goes for about 2 hours, I'd say 2 or 3, depending on what we're playing. Especially with younger kids, you know, you tend to run shorter games, like, you know, especially if they're, you know, maybe in the 5-year-old range, you want to stick closer to an hour. That's how long you're going to be able to keep their attention for a game. But we started off playing Hero Kids. I don't know if you've heard of that system.
My partner Ted was running No Thank You Evil for his family for a little.
So we actually started off early on with Hero Kids, but then with 5th edition D&D, it's not that complicated, and so I just decided to go into that, and that way they would learn the game from the ground up, so to speak. So they're playing 5th edition D&D now.
Yeah, I've had a couple of false starts with the family game, and have kind of written it off. My son plays with me. He actually took Gen Con, so that was pretty cool. But
my wife took a while to get into to separate herself from her character in D&D a lot, or the way she thinks in real life into D&D. For example, her first character that she ever played was in my games was the rogue, and when she found out that she had to pay for training, she started to freak out because she didn't have enough money. It's like, where am I supposed to get all that gold? Like, I can't afford that.
That's great. Like, I just envision her character like applying for jobs in the game now, trying to get money for the training.
Right. Well, first of all, you're a thief. Go steal it. That's what you do.
That's funny. Now, when this year I ran into it, the family game, it was they very much had a mentality of us versus him. And they're like, okay. they would like whisper and try and keep things secret from me. I'm like, come on, guys, it doesn't really work that way.
Oh, yeah, I know. About the only thing my players don't like to do is give me ideas, or mention a really cool monster that could exist, because if they do, it could end up in the game. Because kind of like Zombie Moose. I really like that idea now.
It should. Like, that's how I definitely do things. If they mention something in the game and it's a cool idea and you can see that they're kind of digging on it, then it absolutely has to become a thing somewhere.
That's right. That's right. This is going to be a thing now. Exactly.
So, gaming aside, well, not actually gaming aside, but speaking of gaming, you also have a publishing company. You guys are pretty prolific over there. Critical Hits Publishing.
Yep. Critical Hit Publishing. And I started off just me. And more recently, Rob the Swamper Davis and DeVay Brayon Jackson, he's been really, both of them have been really involved in it. And especially DeVay goes by DBJ. And he's the prolific one. I mean, that guy's a writing machine. He comes up with ideas like people, sneeze, he just cranks out idea after idea after idea, and he's just great at it. And his stuff can take time to translate because he writes in a very excited manner. And so you get a lot of material, but then you have to, kind of rein it in just a little bit, and it's awesome.
Like an orange going through a juicer.
Kind of, yeah. And his series that we've been working on a lot lately, which is the Cinematic Environment series, and that's with we have a book for each environment, like Arctic and desert and mountain, and we have aerial, we have aquatic. I put out a general book on just survival, and right now we're working on cityscapes. So we're working on urban environments at this point. And yeah, it's just, they're a lot of fun to work on. And I love, we're actually playing a kind of a sample game using these cinematic environment books at the moment.
Oh, cool. DBJ is actually in a game we just started up last week for a Marvel Phase Rip.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so you won't be around tonight, but and guys, we'll be doing that tonight if you want to check that out. But after that, we should be in full swing. So we kind of did like a session 0, and I think tonight is probably going to be more like a session 0.5, and then we're going to kick things off next week for real.
Yeah.
But that's been a lot of fun so far. It looks like that's going to be a blast to play.
Yeah, he's DBJ is a great player. He's in our cinematic environment game, obviously, and he's just a lot of fun, very creative, and always makes a fun character. So yeah, it's well worth well worth having them.
It's actually one of the reasons that I kind of circled around to you, because I was looking for players for that game, and I was just kind of like scrolling through Messenger, and I was like, you know what? I haven't done anything with DeVay before. Wonder if he'd be interested. You know, he's always got great ideas. He's inspired several of the videos we've done, and you know, and I was like, hey, what links do you want me to throw in there? And I knew he was involved with Critical Hit Publishing, and I went and looked at it, and I was like, man, you guys have a lot of stuff over there. I didn't even realize. You know how many products you guys have already putting out.
Yeah, and occasionally we'll put out other things like in between, like just as, you know, little extra ones that we get, and well, even I put together a deck of critical hit cards, and critical fumble cards, and you know, just because I thought, you know, that'd be kind of a cool way to do critical hits, you know. So I'm a big fan of doing something above and beyond just the standard, you do double damage, that kind of thing. I want to make it a little more interesting. When I used to play way back in high school, we played standard D&D. I think it was like 2nd edition, but we brought in the critical hit tables from Rollmaster, and we incorporated those into into our system, and that was just a blast. We love those things.
I know, you know, like the original Lord of the Rings game had like the most brutal hit charts in them.
Oh, really? Yeah, oh, you mean talking about MERP? Middle-earth role play? Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, those things are nasty. You roll percentile 1 to 100, and you know, you can do everything from just tripping to, you know, your head is cut off, it catches fire or whatever. It's just, I love that.
They're kind of humorous too, like taking the arrow, take an arrow through the ear instantly removes all arrow wax and you're dead.
Well, I like I said, I put together my own critical hit system for 5th edition, which I have on our site. And sorry, I got to open up a can here for my daughter here. All right, there you go. And so I put together my own, and to sort of pay homage to Rollmaster, number 66 is the worst one, because that's the way it was on their charts for some reason. They always had, like, for some reason, number 66 was always by itself, and it was always something really unusual and, you know, bizarre, you know. So those were always cool.
So what is the significance of 66?
I have no idea. That's just the way they had them in the Rollmaster charts. And I just remember that when we would roll our percentile dice on our critical hit and we get the 66, it was just great. We loved that because it was always going to be interesting, even if it was on us. There was always that kind of, you know, excitement about it. And so
how much of that did you take into your own critical decks?
What? Not definitely included some of the humor. And I definitely made it, you know, increasingly lethal as you get into the higher numbers. When I converted over to the cards, I just have more cards that are not as bad to end up getting the same bell curve on the results. So the nice thing about the cards, though, is that if you don't want it to be super lethal in your game, like say you don't want any instant death cards, you just take those out, and then you use the same deck. Or if you want it to be more lethal, you take out some of the lighter stuff and use just the nasty ones. So it's a little more scalable than, say, a chart is. So that's kind of why I did it. It was more of a side idea that I thought, because I saw Drive Thru RPG came up with, you know, print on demand cards, and they have the new you know, the boxes that come with it. Actually, I'll show you real quick. You know, they have the cool, you know, boxes that you make for them and all that, and you know, it's just, I mean, the quality of their stuff is just, you know, awesome. You know, they just do great work.
Oh, they're big too, right? They're not. That's not standard playing card size.
They do have those. These I did the tarot size, which I kind of like the bigger, you know, more dramatic cards. But the cool thing is you could make your own, you know, you can just make your own kind of deck for whatever reason. You know, one of the projects we were working on is cards like this that are basically for NPC generating. You know, if you need an NPC, you pick 4 cards, and then those describe what the character is, that kind of thing. So that's kind of on the drawing board.
What about hazard cards to go along with your the cinematic environments?
Yeah, we were actually thinking about that too. Kind of cards that work with those. Also, kind of like encounter cards, but not necessarily a monster encounter. Like I've always been a big fan of non-combat encounters, especially when traveling. You know, not everything has to be, oh, you're attacked by bandits, oh, you're attacked by orcs, oh, you're attacked by a hill giant, you know, or attacked by 3 trolls, whatever it is. They don't always have to be these combat encounters and you know, where you're fighting for your life. You can run into, you know, a band of gypsies. I was watching a program about how people who used to make furniture would basically go off into the woods to live for so many months out of the year, where they would build their furniture in the woods and then bring it back to their town or city or whatever, and to sell it. And so you could have you know, little camps like that set up that people run into, just little things of interest to make traveling less either, you know, a visual montage, or, you know, every 5 minutes you're getting attacked by a bugbear.
No, that absolutely makes sense. And when we talk about random encounters, we always kind of like put that idea out there. It doesn't have to be, like you said, it doesn't have to be a combat encounter. It doesn't have to be a fight. It could just be something interesting. And I've always liked the random encounter charts where they actually kind of put that stuff in there. I think on the newer modules that Watts is putting out, they're doing more of that stuff. I mean, Tomb of Annihilation has a whole, you come across the body, and I think there might be another table for what's on the body.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with some of the new stuff, and particularly Tomb of Annihilation. Prior to this, Curse of Strahd was probably my favorite, just because I've always loved the Ravenloft, the original Ravenloft module. But it's a great combination of sandbox and module in a way, because you can follow it, you know, the kind of story that leads to, you know, the tomb, but you can literally go anywhere in that setting, and it's not all set in stone. You know, it's very sandboxy. I really like that.
I feel like with each adventure, and in particular when the ones that they kind of took the reins back on, they do seem to be getting better and better, and incorporating those elements. And it's almost like they've kind of hit their stride with like figuring out more modern mechanics, while at the same time capturing what people really liked about the earlier editions of the game.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like about 5th edition. Anytime someone asks me, you know, which one you play and why, I think with 5th they did a really good job of picking the best out of previous editions and putting it in there to make it like a friend of mine says, you want a system that's going to get out of the way of the role playing. You know, you don't want something that's going to, you know, hinder you. And I think it does that. And I know people have talked about this before too, but to me, the brilliance of the advantage disadvantage mechanic cannot be understated. You know, or can it be overstated? It's really good, is what I'm saying.
Well, you know, it just totally simplifies things. It's real simple. Grab 2 dice, roll them.
Well, as a DM, it's so nice. You know, you don't have to think of, oh, well, maybe you get a +3 to this, or you know, I can do this. No, just advantage disadvantage. Boom. It's that simple. You know, I love that.
It definitely removes the microtransactions from the game.
Yeah, and it just the speed that it moves. I'm a huge fanboy of 5th edition these days.
I'm right there with you for basically all the reasons you just stated. And you know, let's face it, 5th edition, they didn't do anything new or innovative, but they tried that with 4th edition, and the community flipped them the vote on it. So
yeah.
So I can't really blame them for going, well, what worked with all these different editions?
Right. No, and they did it really well. So good on them.
So, do you have any projects that you haven't done yet? Any projects you haven't worked on yet that are kind of like the ones you're looking to get to, but for whatever reason you haven't, or maybe big?
Well, actually, I'm working on three different ones right now. One is the city one I mentioned, the cityscapes. This is a cinematic environment book, so it's a little more complicated because, kind of like we're pointing out in the book, cities are much more than one environment. You know, you can go from building to building and be in a different environment. And so what we're doing is we're creating these sort of we're borrowing kind of the idea of aspects from Fate, if you're familiar with those, and allowing gyms to put aspects on different parts of the city. Like if you go into a bazaar, you know, it's going to be crowded. There's going to be a lot of smells, a lot of noise. Those things are all going to affect how things operate within that place, you know? And so it's taking a new way to look at these different environments within the city, and you know, how they change, you know, between streets, between buildings, between blocks, going to an alley, going into a sewer, going on the rooftops. It's all going to be a very different environment. So I'm having a lot of fun working on this. It's going to be big though. And that's one of the things I've noticed. Our books keep getting, you know, progressively bulkier. Eventually we're going to combine all the cinematic environments into a single tome and add some more material. And it's going to be this, you know, massive book that will put Pathfinder to shame. And the other project I'm working on is an adventure of mine. It's a zombie centered adventure, but it's going to be very different than any other D&D ones that I've seen before. So
Moose zombies, perhaps.
What's that?
Moose zombies, perhaps.
Now, yeah. Definitely now. Yeah, so I'm having fun working on that too. What was the other one I'm working on? I was working on one to do with diseases and madness. Because one book that's been consistently very popular and continues to sell is Potions and Poisons, because it includes a lot of mundane potions, a lot of mundane poisons, and things like that. And so I think, you know, it was something very different that a lot of people didn't have, you know, access to. So yeah, so I definitely want to do more diseases and madness, which I kind of like in a game as well.
What aspect of creating content do you like the most?
I don't know. Well, yeah, I don't do things normally. I like to think about what the cover is going to look like first. I almost like to design the cover first and then fill in the rest, kind of thing. I have this idea for you know, something. It's like, oh, what would the cover look like? And it inspires me. So I'll put together either mock-up of a cover or something like that. It's like, yeah, that's what I want to see. And then I imagine what would be in that book. You know, kind of what would be in that book? What would I have in there?
Well, you know, that makes sense in a way, because you, like, if you can visualize the cover and what that looks like, that starts to inform your other decisions. Like, well, what kind of theme is this? If it's a dark and creepy cover, you know, this is probably horror, you know, or, you know, if it's an alchemist, you know, mixing things on the cover, then, you know, from there you're moving into your poisons and potions. Yep.
And I also look for things that I think would make a game more interesting and that I haven't seen addressed. Like I said, like diseases and insanity. You know, they're addressed a little bit, but I like to go into depth about them because, like in the Potions and Poisons book, each poison, for example, each one probably has like a good paragraph about it, like, you know, where the materials come from. What it does to the person, you know, it's maybe some of its history, where it was used, you know, all that kind of lore makes it interesting rather than just a mechanical thing. It becomes something that makes it fun to role play, fun to add into the game, something a GM can put in when the player asks, you know, where can I get the materials for one of these? Well, funny you should ask, because you're gonna have to climb that mountain over there. There's a cave up there with this worm in it that secretes this bile, which you have to get. Good luck.
Cave worm.
That's right. You just got to milk some of the bile. It's fine. I mean, what could go wrong?
So what do you think is one of the more oddest or strangest places that you've been struck for inspiration? I always get inspired from weird things myself. I'm curious about the things you've done.
I don't know if it's weird, but lately, well, with the cinematic environment books, I've always been into, kind of survival, wilderness survival, and I've watched wilderness survival shows, things like that, Survivor Man, that kind of thing, and so when I put together the cinematic environment book Survival, I did most of that one because I'm so into this stuff. And there's a lot more information in there than there really should be for a role-playing game. But so much of it is flavor that a GM can put in, that they can, like, four different types of fires you can make, that kind of thing. How to filter, drinking water, different ways you can, purify drinking water, things like that. It's almost a survival book. I have a disclaimer saying it's not really intended for that, but, if you read through this book, you would have an edge if you were ever lost in the wilderness. That's all I'm saying.
There you go. Buy some critical hits products. They might save your life someday. Can you use that as your tagline?
I like it.
And then the disclaimer: this might be an absolute lie.
That's right.
So with that, I'm going to jump into the chat for our roll call. See where people are coming from right now.
Yeah.
It'll take them a little time to catch up. There's always a little bit of a delay. So how many of you are over there working for Critical Hits Publishing?
Well, really just the three of us. We have, and we don't live together, but yeah. So there's me, DBJ, and Rob Davis, Rob the Swamper Davis. He's over in Nova Scotia. DBJ's in Ohio, and I'm here in Northern Maine. So
that might be a great 80s sitcom, though.
It could be, yeah. I would almost pay to see that. Almost.
Then you realize you might have to live through it, and it may not be the greatest.
Well, one of the things I wanted to do with Critical Hit, though, was to give more people access to being able to publish things they want to publish. Publish their own material. So ultimately, I'd like to get other people who want to publish something that they don't think that they can, or that they don't feel comfortable with. Like maybe they just have an idea, maybe they just have this really great idea, but they don't know how to put it together. They don't know any artists. It's like, well, come on over. We'll take a look and see what we can help you do. If you want to put it on your own site, that's, your own drive-through RPG page, that's great. If you want us to put it up on ours, that's fine. And then we just work out, what they want, how they want to do that. And I would love to see more of that. I want to get more people to just to get their ideas out there, because there's so many good ideas that I hear from people in the community, and they just don't have the opportunity to let others hear about them. So that's one thing I really like to do.
If someone happens to be listening now and that interests them, what is the best way to contact you?
Actually, yeah, I guess the best way would be to go on Facebook to Critical Hit Publishing, and you can message any of us from there. You can also just friend me, Alex Galat. I assume it'll be somewhere here. You can message me on Facebook. If you want to email me, you can email me at captain.gothnog.dragonheart at gmail.com, and you can get me that way. Yeah, those would be the easiest.
Sweet. So I'm going to jump in the chat now. We got Rich from Niagara Falls. We've got Comrade 2261 in Lynn, Massachusetts. We have Lopez Island in the house of Washington with AJ Kinney. Todd is in Dallas. We got Comic Book University. I'm in the vault at a parole hearing. We've got Dallas, Texas in the house with Jason. Paul is in Pittsburgh. Virgilio is in Utah. We've got Tesmic in Australia. We've got Red Jackal in Florida. Oklahoma. We have Joshua. We got Seattle, Washington with Frigginator. Richard is in Orlando. We have Rio Rancho, New Mexico with Shalander. We've got Wilder in New York. We got Patrick in Sweden. Zaref Gaming is in New Mexico as well. Western Australia with the one lazy guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's only one lazy guy in Australia.
Apparently that's him.
The second one, they make you leave. we have Linking in Sweden. We have Houston, Texas in the house with Kelsey. We've got Indiana in the house with Ethan. Chicago with Ruak. New Brunswick with Ben. People chiming in from all over the place, which is always cool.
Awesome.
So, and in case you guys missed it, you can check Alex out in the description. There are links to Roll Up and Die podcast, Critical Hit Publishing, as well as your YouTube channel. And then from there, you can branch out and find him at even more places, I'm sure.
Yeah. If you type in Captain Gothnog, you'll find all kinds of stuff about me. Things that I didn't even know.
Things I didn't know. Things I didn't want to know. Don't look there again. The internet can be a scary place.
Yeah, so, it's one of the things that's kind of cool that, just going through the list there is that, and it kind of hit me after a few months of gaming online, is that, I'm playing with people from literally all around the world. In one game, I was playing with people from, all the way from New Zealand or Iceland or Hungary, and it's just that's amazing to me that you can that's even possible. I grew up, in the 70s and 80s, and so that was just unthinkable at the time. So it's still amazing to me.
Well, yeah, I think it was Ian Christensen that had put a post up about having gamed with someone from like every continent but Antarctica, and I'm like, you know what? I think there's only like one or two that I've missed too, and
yeah.
And we don't even do a ton of online gaming, but that's like really the cool thing about what we do is like meeting people all over the place.
You can also get hated by people from all over the world too, though. And it's funny because I don't get a lot of thumbs downs. I'm not that popular on YouTube, not popular enough to have that many, but I was getting these consistent thumbs downs and thumbs down, however it said. And so just out of curiosity, I can't tell who it came from, but I can, it tells you the country, and apparently it's Brazil. So for some reason, there's one person in Brazil, presumably, just keeps thumbing down my videos for some reason. I don't know what I did to offend this person in Brazil. I try not to offend people, but
I don't know. I actually offended someone in Brazil as well. On one of the live chats, someone kind of weighed in. I saw they were from Brazil, and I was like, Brazil has really beautiful women. And for whatever reason, that just totally set this person off. Sorry, I just find Brazilian women very attractive.
I don't think I recall mentioning Brazil in any of my things, which just made it even weirder. But well,
it's the internet, man. Who knows?
In a way, it kind of gave me a little bit of a boost of confidence because, hey, I got a thumbs down now. I'm a real YouTuber.
yeah, that's it. You're not a real YouTuber until you garner a little hate.
That's right.
We kind of maxed that out relatively early on. We did a video about gaming and diversity, and it did not go over well at all.
Well, it's funny. I did like one video on sex and role playing. And it got the most thumbs down, but it also got the most views. So it's kind of both ends of the spectrum on that one.
Well, yeah, people love to hate. That's true. Yeah, we offended a very popular neo-Nazi online with our video. So like literally
before it was cool,
someone left a comment of, I really don't want to dislike this video because it's at 666 dislikes already. But we eventually blew past 666 dislikes.
Wow.
Just the comment section was, oh god, it was awful. Eventually we unlisted the video after leaving it up for like 4 months or something. But it was just the comments were so awful. There was like threats of violence in there and all kinds of stuff.
Wow. Yeah. I can't imagine that, you know, people being just that annoyed by a video, really, I guess. But
oh yeah, it's, you know, people are nuts, man. What are you gonna do? So I left it. I actually left it up as long as I did out of spite more than anything. But we got to the point where, you know, we make different we you know, have different sponsors, and we're looking for sponsorship and things like that. So I was like, this might not be the first thing I need someone to look at. Just like
right. Yeah,
the troll.
Even if you do nothing wrong, it's still a first impression.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe someday we'll take another crack at it.
when you're just too popular to touch.
I don't know if there's ever such a thing, but
yeah, that's true.
But look at PewDiePie. He fell.
Yeah, that's true.
But you know, what are you gonna do? So now moving away from YouTube hate.
Oh yeah.
How long have you been publishing now?
That is a really good question. It's been about 4, 5, 6 years, I think maybe 6 years. I started off just doing a few small things on my own. Like I put out a book of cantrips. I put a book just of 5th edition. Well, actually, I started off. This was before 5th edition, so I started off with 3rd edition cantrips. I love cantrips. I'm a huge fan of cantrips in D&D. I always saw them as role-playing spells, you know, because you can have a lot of great little spells that add so much flavor to the game, but don't necessarily add a lot of mechanical advantage or anything like that. But unless you use them really cleverly, which still is a win. So, yeah, I did that. I did I'm trying to remember what some of the early stuff was. I don't remember, but so I started off with that, and then I started doing an online magazine, or a magazine through there called Theater of the Mind, and I was really trying to put Theater of the Mind out every other month. Well, actually, I was going to start doing it every month, which I realized was really foolish of me. And
how about we go with ambitious instead?
What was that?
How about we go with ambitious instead?
Yeah, that's a nice way to look at it. But and again, most of it was to get people's voices out there. You know, kind of the same thing I talked about before. I want it written by gamers for gamers, that kind of thing. So get people out there reading it. And I think we got like 6 issues. And there were still people interested in writing for it and producing, you know, adding to it. But I was getting, no one was buying it. So I just said it was way too much work for so little, you know, reward back. So I may pick it up again someday, because I really like the name Theater of the Mind magazine. It worked really well, and you know, it was, a lot of it was about, you know, about more role playing than it was mechanical stuff. So and it really could have been for almost any system.
It's a snazzy name. Sometimes our ideas need a little time, and then they give them legs.
And I had fun doing them. Again, it was just a matter of, you know, I put a lot of work into it, and then you put it up there, and then like no one's picking it up. It's like, okay, I guess they don't like this one. Check. So it also kind of occurred to me that magazines aren't as popular in general as they kind of used to be, with the advent of websites and blogs and all kinds of things like that are just sort of taking the place that those used to have in our lives.
I guess probably guys like us, right? Like in our age group, and maybe older, maybe a little bit younger, kind of miss that stuff, because we grew up with, like, you know, heavy metal and rock magazines, Dragon magazine, Dungeon magazine, like anything cool that was in your life, there was a magazine for it, and literally it was the only way to connect to the rest of the people that were into your thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of it was nostalgia. I loved the old Dragon magazine, and I remember being excited when the new one came out, and getting that, and just all the cool stuff that was in it that you could use, and yeah, I guess after a while, it just occurred to me that with the advent of everything that you can get online now, it's all kind of out there, just exploded into the internet, and so to get one little slice of it in the form of a magazine just doesn't make sense anymore. You know?
There's a part of it too that the younger generations are going to never understand because they've never really experienced it, and that is, and I actually had this conversation with someone else on the show Friday, is when you would get a magazine like that, you would get not necessarily what you were looking for, but it was a surprise every time it came. Like you had things introduced to your life that you needed that you just didn't know you needed at the time.
Oh yeah. Well, oh yeah. Speaking of which, there was one Dragon magazine. I forget what issue it was, but it changed. It changed my character's existence forever, because we had started out with these low level evil. It was an evil party. We were in high school, and I was playing evil cleric, and as soon as we started, it came out with the issue that had the blueprint for a lich, and I realized that this was my character's purpose now, to become a lich. So I photocopied the page and laminated with Scotch tape to an index card, or a card that I could 3-hole punch and put in my book, and it's like, this is his motivation now. I'm doing this. I'm going to become a lich. So yeah, and I didn't know I needed that, but apparently I did.
Yeah, and so that's like, now, like, I don't really randomly look on the internet for stuff. You always go with a purpose.
Yeah.
So I mean, occasionally you stumble across things, but it's not quite the same like as knowing you're going to get this cool magazine every month and it's going to have stuff in there, but you don't necessarily know what stuff's going to be in there.
Yeah, the closest I'll come sometimes is if I'm looking for a new magic item or a new spell, and my brain is just dried up, and sometimes I'll just go, okay, 5th edition, magic item, and occasionally I'll find a list on there of someone who's, people keep posting things and say, oh, that's a great idea, I'll use that in the game, or I'll like the idea and then do it differently because, like, well, that was a great idea, but I kind of want to do it this way better.
Yeah, or you get the opposite response, and you're like, oh my God, dear God, what am I looking at, and why did I have safe search off when I searched?
Well, it's kind of funny because these writers, especially horror or mystery writers, if you look at their browser history, they'll probably be arrested because it's like, how to poison 500 people in a it's like you can end up on a list somewhere. But you just want to know for a game or for your writing project. But now you're looking up how long does it take for a head to dissolve in acid?
I don't know if it was during one of our live chats or in our business meeting last night, but we were talking about, a lot of times if one of the players aren't there, I just have their characters get kidnapped, and the adventure for the night is usually to like free that character,
Right.
That character. And that's, we were kind of talking about being on watch lists for searching for things, and clearly this guy must be a kidnapper. Not only is he looking for ways to kidnap people, but he's looking for different ways, and that haven't happened.
Oh. Yeah. So I imagine that I set off some flags with my one with my zombie adventure, and 2 with the upcoming city one, which will have some weird stuff in it. So yeah.
Well, I saw a funny meme. I think it was like yesterday. I actually saw it where it was like a woman's talking on the phone, and it's like, I have to be careful what I say. They might be listening. Mm-hmm. And then it goes to like the next shot of a woman talking to like the Alexa or the Google device. we go from literally worrying about whether they're listening to literally probably just talking to them.
That's right. Well, and that's kind of cool too. You can just say weird stuff and let them try to sort through it and see what's real.
Absolutely. The key is to put out so much stuff that they can't possibly figure it out.
See, I had that idea a long time ago. You know, I was talking to someone about you know, a crime scene, and you know, oh, it's impossible to get away with a crime because you know they can find DNA and hair strands and all this other stuff. It's like, well, that's why you saturate the scene with all kinds of DNA, just like, you know, collect people's dead skin and hair from a salon, and you just scatter it everywhere, man. Just saturate the environment so that it's literally impossible for them to sort out which is yours.
I'll keep that in mind next time I want to rig a crime scene.
Yeah, fortunately, I'm choosing to use my powers for good instead of evil. So,
oh, I actually, like, that's a good place for inspiration though for gamers. They're like, you know, how do you do a mystery when you know, when you have divination magic?
Right, and yeah, so yeah, we've talked about stuff like that too. How do you, and again, this is coming up in the city thing because obviously we have to talk about law enforcement in a city and how that works, and how do you handle not only investigating with magic, but how do you handle, like, if the perpetrator is a magician, you know, if they can wield magic, how do you control that? You know, do you have special manacles that prevent them from casting? Do you have to drug them with some kind of potion that inhibits their magic, that kind of thing? Because you can't just lock up a wizard and expect them to stay in a prison, you know, that easily.
You could, it just doesn't work. But
well, right,
it's, absolutely. Actually, when you what I thought of when you mentioned the city environment, that should be pretty popular for you guys, because every major YouTube channel I know in this niche, that is like one of the questions they get a lot.
Yeah.
How do I do cities? How do I run city adventures?
Yeah. And we kind of saw that too, but it was also, like I said, daunting because there are so many different environments within a city. One of the things we kind of did, which was different, which is to use the alignment system for cities. You know, and in a way, it kind of makes more sense for a city because individual humans are complex. Like it's hard for someone to fit under a single alignment, but a city overall can have an alignment. You know, is this city, you know, is it a lawful evil city? You know, is it a, you know, are they so strict with their laws that, you know, littering is a hanging offense? You know, what kind of city is this? Do they have slavery? Do they have prostitution? Do they have, you know, what are these things that make up the city's morality? And yeah, that's something. A lot of these things hopefully will help keep people from just having the standard medieval fantasy city setting, which is it's an easy trap to fall into, where all these cities just kind of look and smell and taste the same.
Yeah, I totally get that. And like, even when we do, like, when we've talked about alignment, with individuals, we always talk about the idea that it's more of a spectrum than, you know, a hard this or that. And, you know, when we've done different things with cities in our games, we're always trying to figure out, you know, how to come up with, like, what are the characteristics of this city that sets it apart from the other cities.
Right. Yeah. And that can be hard for especially a new GM to do, because you go into sort of expecting, again, you know, if you're going into a larger town, you expect Brie, you know, it's going to be like that. Or if you go into a city, you expect, you know, like one of the popular Faerun cities, like Waterdeep or something like that. But they don't have to be like that. And kind of looking back to what we talked about earlier, I like Chult in Tomb of Annihilation because it is very different than some of the other ones. It's a lot more, you know, it's a different ethnicity than all the other cities, which tend to be very, you know, Eurocentric, I guess.
You know, a lot of that just stems down to, I feel like GMs just like overwhelm themselves.
Yeah.
When, like, you really need like 3 characteristics that's going to separate your city from the other city, and that's all you need to start. And then from there, you can kind of like work, you know, you can build out from that.
Sure. Yeah. But even just getting visual inspiration, like going on, like DeviantArt or something like that, and looking for, you know, cities in different settings. We recently talked about this on Roll Up and Die, where we talked about cities well, first of all, they usually evolve from something. You know, they don't usually show up on a hilltop with a blueprint and say there's going to be a city here this big. You know, it usually evolves from something smaller, like a mining camp or a fishing village, and for whatever reason, it grows from there and gets bigger, and they keep adding and adding and adding, and so it's always influenced by how it started and the terrain that it's evolving in. Is it a desert city? Is it a mountain city? Is it a swamp city? Is, you know, what does the climate and terrain suggest to the city? And that alone can help you make something really unique.
We do these GM91 where we take problems that GMs are having and try and offer up solutions. And you know, he has this problem of, you know, savages and barbarians were just basically monstrous humanoids, orcs, goblins, whatever. And his players decided they wanted to civilize them and put them in a city. And he wanted to know how to do it. And that's kind of like we looked at. It's like, that's not how cities work. Like what you're talking about is actually an intern encampment. I believe. But you know, cities spring up around something. You know, their settlements spring. You know, they either for protection or there's resources. You know, it's generally one of those two things. Why you would put something somewhere. You know, it's got to fulfill some needs.
Yeah, or some places just happen to be location. You know, there's this place where, you know, these three trade routes meet, and this is the only way you can go to get from this part of the world to this part of the world. So obviously something's going to happen here. There's going to be a city of some kind. You know? Right,
and it probably started with like a tavern, like
yeah.
Like, oh, everyone goes through here, or you know, some shops or something, and someone's like, oh, everyone goes through here. If I put something here, they'll all come by my spot.
That's right. Location.
Absolutely. So we've gone past the hour mark, and your kids have been very good today, by the way.
Not bad. Yeah, they were getting a little rowdy a moment ago, but they're back outside. So
I think you said you sent them out to ride beavers or something.
Well, not exactly. Although if they do, I suppose that's fine. No, we have a beaver pond out in the back of our property that they go out to once in a while. They go exploring, and my daughter invariably comes back with bits of plant and bark and stuff that she builds into her crafts. So, but yeah, they love finding dead things.
Jealous. I can't get my kids to go outside. They don't know what that is. And one of them is about to be an Eagle Scout. So,
well, you know, when you live in a house this small, and you know, they're only allowed electronics a little bit in the morning. There's really no choice but to go out at that point. So we don't have television, don't really have video games, anything like that. So,
like I said, when I first stumbled across you, one of the things I found was interesting was your lifestyle, which is a little bit, it's not the American norm. So
yeah, definitely not.
You should do more videos on that.
Yeah, you know, that kind of occurred to me too. And again, I think now that my kids are a bit older, I can probably start including them in videos. And so maybe I will do more of that. But,
yeah, a camera person, a mic person.
Oh yeah, that I'm sure that'll.
They're all up shots.
They'll all be those nausea-inducing handheld shots like you see in some movies.
Blair Witch Project.
Right. It'll look like that, only worse.
Anyway, I want to thank you for coming on, and I want to thank everyone for hanging out with us today. You can check out places to find Alex in the description, as always, guys. And until next time, stay nerdy.